and welcome to another Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, our topic today is how to use Luminar as a plugin for Lightroom. So, here's the thing. At Skylum, we don't want to totally change your workflow. We want you to feel comfortable with what you're doing with your workflow. If you prefer to start in Lightroom or Photoshop and then take advantage of all the powerful tools of Luminar, then use it as a plugin. Because there's a lot of tools that Luminar has, AI replacement or AI sky replacement, the portrait tools, all of the enhancement of the looks. They have these incredible amounts of powerful tools that Lightroom doesn't have. And it would take years to master in Photoshop. So, again, if your workflow is Lightroom, you're comfortable with it, start using Luminar just as a plugin. So, excuse me. So what I want to do today is get you up and running, fast and efficient on how to make sure the plugins are installed properly and what's the best practice going from Lightroom into Luminar. All right? Now, before we begin, I want to give a quick shout out to our partner, Fuji. Thank you so much for helping sponsor these. They did send, which I mentioned before, a really great XT3 with 3 different lenses. I'm going to start shooting with this, hopefully this weekend, and actually this Friday. I have a couple shoots lined up on Friday, and I want to test this out. I'll let you guys know how that goes. All right? So let's see real quick. We have Russell back. There we go. There's an untouched. Oh, sweet. We'll check that out. And then my favorite cousin, Marianne. She's here. This coffee break was because of her. She kept asking about Lightroom using as a plugin, so I'm going to go into all that for you. So let's begin. So here I am inside Luminar. The first thing I need to do is to make sure when I installed it, I installed the plugins. Sure enough, the plugins are installed. All right, so I'm going to close out of this. Now I'm in Lightroom, and here's the image we're going to work with. Now, I could do my traditional Lightroom edits in here. I can come over, let's say do auto tone. There's a lot of stuff we could do. Don't dial it all back. I could do all that stuff in here. Let's do this. Edit. Development setting, reset. All right, so I could do all the typical things I would normally do inside Lightroom. I could do it here and then bounce it over into Luminar. But for now, I want to keep it simple and just as plain as I can. So what I want to do is add stars to the background. Now, I can't do that in Lightroom. So Lightroom doesn't have this feature, Luminar does. So in order for me to do this, I have to come up here to the Edit, and I want to go to Preferences. And under Preferences, right here where it says Add Additional Editors, this is where I want to make sure I add Luminar to this mix. Now, watch what I did. I want it to come back as a file format JPEG. I got my color space all set. What I did is a little bit different. Here's my template. I want it to be renamed. I chose to give it the name, edit. I chose to add Luminar at the end of it just because then I know that it was edited with Luminar. If you're using a different plugin, you do the same concept, dash whatever that plugin is, just so you know what you edited that the image in. So now that I have it set, now from here, I can right click and click Edit In. Oh, here it is, Luminar. So I'm going to click on Luminar. Had I made changes, I can edit with a copy of this with the Lightroom adjustments, or I can just edit a regular copy with no adjustments. What you want to try to stay away from is the edit the original, because if you click and edit the original, this is a JPEG. The JPEG will get changed, so it'll actually change what we're doing, and that's a destructive edit. And those are things that we desperately to try to stay away from. All right. So, and by the way, Here's other copy features, which we worked about earlier. All right? So, add it in. I'm going to use the adjustments. Once I do that, it's going to already create that extra copy of the file for me, so it's already created. Now it's inside Luminar. Ready? Here's where we can practice our magic. All right? So, as always, and let me do this. I'm going to click the look down. So I'm going to come over here and be creative, and I want to replace the sky. Now, we can choose from any number one of the skies that they have. Galaxy is pretty cool for this. All right, I like Galaxy. Or, what I'd rather do is add my own sky. Now, down here, it shows the stars that I'm going to use. Let me show you how I got that. Load custom skies. Inside my photography folder, I have another folder called assets. I put an underscore so it's on the top of the list. Inside assets, I have skies, textures, I have some free image overlays, LUTs, and here's stars. In fact, I'm going to drag that back into skies. All right, so I'm going to click on stars and let Luminar do its thing. Look at that. How, excuse me, how awesome is that? So I'm looking at it. Now you would think that some of this is going to be on her right here. If I zoom in closer, let it refresh. All right, we're good. Now, I'm going to look over to the side, and a couple things I'm noticing. A couple things I'm noticing is the gaps here are not closed. So if I click on advanced, I want to close those gaps, meaning I want Luminar to go a little bit extra. Look at that. I found it, just a touch more. I got to be careful because if I go over, it may leak into her. So, let's see. All right. One moment. Good. Okay, Lucille, I will check that out in a moment. All right. All right, so I have this set. This looks great. Now, a couple things I know I'm definitely not going to like. I'm not going to like this little flare here, 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 and there. So I have a choice. I could change it here inside Luminar. Or I can click apply. Now it's going to kick it back into Lightroom for me. And then if I want to continue with the changes, I can make those changes. And once again, I'm still inside Lightroom. Those changes are editable. The changes I'm about to apply to this, not the stars. So Marianne's question was, well, when I bring it back into Lightroom, will it automatically let me change it afterwards? And the answer is no. Not if you're going from Lightroom into Luminar, all right? Now I'll show you a trick on how to fix that. If you're desperately wanting it to be non-destructive, all right? So here they are. So here are the two. So I have the original, which is here, and notice right next to it, where it came back with an extension, Luminar, it gave me my new image. All right? Now, at this point, let me bring this down. Develop. All right, I can come and grab the spot healing brush. Click, 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 and let me get really close. Click. There we go. All right, so I just erased them. And I can do some more. Like these little things right here are bugging me. And here. All right. So, could I have done that in Luminar? Yeah. And would I have? Probably. Because the edit function, the erase tool in Luminar I like better. So that just gives you an example on how the two work together. Now, if I were to, if I were to bring this back into Luminar, the changes are baked right in. So again, to answer Marianne's question, one moment. let's see, what does Robert say? Oh, let me clear my... How do you change sky when it does not appear as a choice? Okay, good. Robert, I'm glad you asked that. And I'll show you that in a moment, too. In fact, what happens is, what Robert is asking is, how do you change it if the sky doesn't appear? That means that Luminar doesn't recognize that there's a sky in the scene. So you'd have to do, that must either mean there's no horizon line, or there's nothing in that scene that distinguishes between a sky and just a white background, right? If there's clouds and stuff in it, usually it will. And do me a favor, Robert, Vanelli, Vanelli, at Skylum.com. Vanelli, if somebody, could you put that in the chat? Maybe Marianne, my email address, Vanelli at Skylum.com. Robert, shoot me that picture, and I'll see what you're talking about. But 100% of the time, if it's grayed out, excuse me, it means it can't recognize there's a sky in the scene. All right? So, let me get back to here. There we go. All right. So, that's how we do it from Luminar, from Lightroom into Luminar. Now, to answer Marianne's question, how do I make it non-destructive? All right. Well, there's two ways. I'm going to open up Photoshop real quick. Now, keep in mind, we're running right now I'm running two very graphic-heavy, intense programs, Photoshop and Lightroom. In a moment, I'm going to run Luminar as a plugin, and it's not as graphic and intense, the full version as a plugin, as it is the standalone version, but you're still pushing it. So to answer Marianne's question, what we're going to do is a skip. All right, we're gonna since if you're doing the subscription base for Adobe, you have Lightroom and Photoshop. If you know nothing about Photoshop, don't worry. Right click, edit in. Now we're going to say open up as a smart object in Photoshop. Now what's going to happen is it's going to bounce over to Photoshop as a smart object. Good. Okay, good. Todd, I just showed how to fix that, and I'll show you once again. Perfect. So now that we're in Photoshop, notice it's a smart object. So a smart object means Luminar now can become a smart filter. So I'll come over to the filter menu, and now when I apply Luminar, it's going to apply it as a smart filter. And notice I didn't have to know anything about Photoshop. All I used Photoshop for is a bridge just to get me over into Luminar. So that's all I did. Now that I'm here, what I did, here's a little trick. So again, for Marianne, what I like to do, if I'm strictly working with Lightroom and not using Photoshop, once I'm done creating my look the way I like it, I come down here and I actually create the look. So I save it. I save the look right here. So now I don't have to do this all over again. So if I go back into Lightroom and I don't like what I did, I'll just delete that, bring another copy over, and then apply that same look I just did. And then, because we're non-destructive, I can come over here and I can look and make my changes. All right? So here we are. I got it in here. Again, I'm not going to waste time, but yes, I can erase these all in here inside Luminar. Then I'm going to click Apply. Once I click Apply, it's going to push me back into Photoshop. While that's doing that, all right? While that's doing that, Todd, let's answer your question here. I'm going to go into Lightroom. Todd, go to Edit, Preferences, and now it's not just for Luminar, all right? You can do this for Photoshop and any other external editors. Notice right here it says File Format. File Format. I chose JPEG, not TIFF, all right? So from here, change that from format, from TIFF to JPEG, save it, and you're good to go, all right? Great, so now we're back in Photoshop. Look at this. Here's the container that holds the Luminar smart filter. Now watch this. Control S, I'm going to save it. Now, ready? I saved it. I'm going to go back into Lightroom to show you. I'm in Lightroom. Now look, boom, it added it. So here it is, the original. And notice what it did? It added the PSD extension. Because do you remember when I said when you edit in Photoshop, I want it to return as a PSD. PSD is Photoshop document. All right? So that's what I did there. Now, notice the change. Ready? If I decide I want to change it, I'm going to open up Luminar. And then once I open up Luminar, once I open up Luminar now, it's going to put me back where I started. So right where I left off, that's what I should say, not started. So right where I left off, it's going to take me back to that spot. So Marianne, that was the answer. If you want it to be non-destructive, 2 ways of doing it. One, if you're only using Lightroom, is I would make a look, save that look, then go back into Lightroom. But remember, any layers you create will not be saved, just the look. Second one is to use Photoshop to piggyback it and bring it in. So now that I'm here, let's change it to Galaxy. Good. And actually everything looks pretty good here. You know what we could do too? I like Galaxy. Do a little structure just to make it look a little extra different. I'll give it time. All right, so how much change that to? Well, a little bit, not a whole lot. That's fine. Now that I have it set, I'm going to apply it, and it's going to bounce me back into Photoshop. Once I'm inside Photoshop, again, I'll save it like I normally do. When I save it, it'll appear inside Lightroom right next to each other as a PSD, and then the file changes. All right? So hopefully that answered your question. Yes, it should. Okay, so guys, here's the thing. CR3 is a raw format. Any raw files, if Luminar or any other program doesn't open the raw file, usually it's either because they're brand new camera or the files are so outdated, the raw files. So my suggestion would be is to do a DNG converter. And it'll convert whatever raw file it is to DNG, and then you can open that up. All right? Let me answer some more questions. All right, when it changes it to a TIFF, oh, okay. No, David, it should automatically, so David said when it changes to a TIFF, that's probably why it won't sync into Lightroom. Oh, Lightroom Mobile. Okay, you're right. All right, good. Hey, thank you so much. Hey, guys, you know what? I'm terrible. I'm very terrible at asking. Oops, sorry, wrong one. I'm terrible at asking this. Do you mind? Hit that thumbs up button. So it's great for our partners, and it's great for the people that review this. So please, if you like what you're seeing, hit that thumbs up button. All right? So I hate those shameless plugs, but I keep forgetting to remind everyone that. So Control S. I saved it. Now let's go back into Lightroom. And boom, there it is. All right. Oh, 1 second. Oh, hello, Mandy. So there we are. How cool was that? All right. So we were able to start in Lightroom. One moment. Let's see. Well, do me a favor. Todd, this is what we're going to do. Todd, shoot me that message. Or shoot me what you want to ask them, and we'll go from there. And you know what? Before we sign off, there was somebody else who asked a question. Where did she go? let's see. Okay, that's what we're good, David. We talked about that. Here we are, Lucille. Okay, so she uses Luminar Flex as a plugin. Yeah, so it shouldn't do that. When you're using other plugins, the only thing I can recommend, Lucille, is try in different orders. So create the smart object. So make it as a smart object. Run whatever plugin you want first. Let it do its thing. Bring it back. Then run Luminar or Flex. Then swap it. If it gives you problems, so try to pinpoint it to see where that is. When I use Flex, I didn't have that issue. Again, I'm on a Windows machine. So you might want to check. You also might want to check your system resources and make sure everything is shut down when you're using like the intense programs like that. Like for this here, I learned my lesson from that one botched class we had. I restart the machines just before every episode, just in case I have a bunch of stuff in memory that's bogging down the system. So, guys, again, thank you. And we did talk about our partner Fujifilm. Please check this out. Look at the new ebook. And then from there, we're going to discuss this hopefully next week. All right? Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me. And again, we'll be here again tomorrow for another Luminar coffee break. Well, I'm Vinelli. Thanks for watching.